Let me ask you something, and don't answer out loud. Just be honest with yourself. What if the reason your life hasn't changed yet isn't because you lack talent, luck, or opportunity? What if the real problem is that the wrong version of you is still in control? See, nobody tells you this, but every single day you wake up, there's a quiet war happening inside you. No noise, no blood, no witnesses, just a battle between who you are and who you know you're supposed to become. One version of you wants comfort, shortcuts, sleep, excuses, and safety. The other version wants growth, discipline, sacrifice, and purpose. And whichever one you feed, that's the one that survives. Here's the scary part. The weak version of you doesn't look dangerous. It doesn't scream. It doesn't threaten you. It sounds reasonable. It says things like, relax, you still have time, or you've been through enough already, or one more day won't hurt. And because it sounds so logical, so gentle, so familiar, you let it stay. You let it drive. You let it decide your future. But tell me this, how many dreams have died because of later? How many opportunities slipped away because you waited until you felt ready? How many times have you promised yourself, this time I'm serious, only to fall back into the same habits? You're not stuck because you're incapable. You're stuck because you've been loyal to the wrong version of yourself. Nobody warned you that comfort could become a prison. Nobody explained that fear doesn't always look like fear. Sometimes it looks like overthinking, procrastination, or pretending you're waiting for the right time. But deep down, you already know the life you want is on the other side of something you've been avoiding. This is not about becoming a different person. This is about letting go of the version of you that keeps holding you back. Because here's the truth. This life, the one you keep dreaming about, the one you pray for late at night, the one you imagine when nobody's watching, it will never belong to the weak version of you. And until you're willing to face that, nothing changes. But the moment you do, everything can. The weak version of you is not who you truly are. It is something you have practiced into existence. That is hard to hear, but it is also freeing, because anything practiced can be unlearned. Weakness is not your identity. It is a collection of habits, choices, and patterns repeated so often that they started to feel like your personality. You were not born afraid of effort. You were not born avoiding responsibility. At some point, life taught you shortcuts. Comfort taught you patience in the wrong direction, and fear taught you how to retreat instead of rise. Over time, those reactions became automatic, and now they show up without you even realizing it. Most people think weakness means being incapable or unintelligent, but that is not the truth. Some of the most talented people live the weakest lives because talent without discipline creates entitlement. Weakness is not a lack of ability, it is a lack of consistency. It is knowing what you should do and choosing not to do it again and again until your mind convinces you that this is just how you are. But habits do not care about your potential. They only respond to repetition. Every time you hit snooze instead of standing up, every time you delay what matters for what feels good, every time you choose comfort over effort, you are training yourself to be weaker, not morally weaker, mentally weaker. The dangerous part is that habits don't announce themselves. They quietly settle in. One skipped workout becomes a week. One missed opportunity becomes a pattern of avoidance. One excuse becomes your explanation for everything. And before you realize it, you are living far below what you are capable of, not because you can't do better, but because you have trained yourself not to try. That is how the weak version of you survives. Through repetition, not force. Your weak self speaks in familiar language. It does not say, quit forever. It says, not today. It does not say, give up on your dreams. It says, you'll start when things calm down. It disguises itself as logic, as patience, as self-care. But real self-care is not avoiding discomfort. It is choosing the pain that leads to growth over the pain of regret. The weak habit avoids temporary pain and locks you into permanent dissatisfaction. Understand this clearly. Your mind believes what you show it. If you repeatedly show it that you quit when things get hard, it will stop expecting effort from you. If you repeatedly show it that you fold under pressure, it will stop calling you to rise. This is why breaking weak habits feels so uncomfortable, because you are fighting years of mental conditioning You are not just changing actions, you are rewriting identity. And identity fights back. That is why so many people mistake discomfort for danger. The moment they try to wake up early or stay disciplined, say no to distractions, or sit in silence with their responsibilities, their mind panics. It says something is wrong, but nothing is wrong. That discomfort is proof that you are stepping outside the habit loop that has kept you small. Growth always feels foreign at first because weakness has felt like home. Here is the empowering truth. The strong version of you is also a habit. Confidence is a habit. Discipline is a habit. Courage is a habit. They are not gifts handed to special people. They are behaviors repeated until they become automatic. The same way you trained yourself to avoid, you can train yourself to face. The same way you built inconsistency, you can build discipline. But you must stop labeling yourself as weak and start identifying the habits that produce weakness. When you say, that's just who I am, you give your habits permission to control your future. But when you say, that's something I practiced and I can practice something else, you take your power back. The weak version of you survives on unconscious living. The strong version is built through awareness and intentional action. Small, daily choices done consistently will always overpower big intentions done occasionally. You do not need a new personality. You do not need more motivation. You need new habits, repeated long enough to change your self-image. The moment you understand that weakness is not your nature, but your training, everything shifts. Because now you are not fighting yourself. You are retraining yourself. And once you change the habits, the weak version of you has nothing left to stand on. Comfort feels harmless. It feels earned. It feels like rest, safety, and peace. But comfort is dangerous not because it is evil, but because it is persuasive. It convinces you that staying where you are is wiser than stepping into the unknown. It whispers that you have time, that there is no rush, that tomorrow will be better. And slowly, without resistance, comfort becomes the enemy of your calling. Not by attacking it, but by putting it to sleep. Your calling does not live where you are most relaxed. It lives where you are stretched. It lives in the space where you are unsure, uncomfortable, and challenged. Every meaningful assignment placed on your life requires growth, and growth always demands discomfort. That is why comfort and calling can never coexist for long. One always suffocates the other. When you choose comfort repeatedly, you are not choosing peace, you are choosing stagnation. And stagnation over time feels like frustration, emptiness, and regret. Comfort keeps you doing what you already know how to do. It keeps you surrounded by what feels familiar. It keeps you repeating routines that no longer develop you. And the problem is not that comfort feels good. The problem is that it numbs your sense of urgency. You stop pushing. You stop dreaming aggressively. You stop believing that more is required of you. You begin to confuse stability with purpose and convenience with fulfillment. But a life that is easy is not the same as a life that is meaningful. Your calling will always ask more from you than you think you can give. That is how you know it is real. If it could be fulfilled without sacrifice, without fear, without discipline, then it would not transform you. It would simply entertain you. Callings shape character. They force you to confront weakness, selfishness, and doubt. Comfort, on the other hand, protects those very things. It allows fear to remain unchallenged and excuses to remain reasonable. Most people do not abandon their calling in dramatic ways. They don't wake up one day and decide to quit on life. They abandon it slowly through small decisions that prioritize ease. They choose sleep over discipline, distraction over focus, familiar pain over unfamiliar growth. And because these choices seem small, they go unquestioned. But direction is determined by repetition, not intention. What you consistently choose to protect will eventually define you. Comfort is especially dangerous because it disguises itself as wisdom. It tells you not to risk too much. It tells you to wait until conditions are perfect. It tells you to avoid failure, embarrassment, and criticism. But waiting for perfect conditions is another way of saying you are unwilling to move without guarantees. And callings never come with guarantees. Only conviction. You move because you believe, not because you feel safe. Discomfort is not a sign that you are doing something wrong. Often, it is proof that you are finally doing something right. The resistance you feel when you try to grow is not life pushing you back. It is life preparing you. Muscles grow by tearing. Character grows by pressure. Faith grows by stepping forward before clarity arrives. Comfort interrupts all of that by offering you an exit before the transformation is complete. There is a version of you that only exists on the other side of discomfort. That version is stronger, wiser, more disciplined, and more confident, not because life became easier, but because you became capable. Comfort robs you of that version. It keeps you stuck rehearsing the same struggles, praying the same prayers, and asking the same questions year after year. Not because answers are unavailable, but because movement was avoided. Your calling requires you to leave something behind. Old habits, old identities, old patterns of thinking. Comfort begs you to keep them. It argues that change is unnecessary, that adaptation is exhausting, that sacrifice is too costly. But the true cost is staying the same. The true loss is the life you never lived because you refused to feel uncomfortable for a season. If you want to know whether comfort has become your enemy, ask yourself this. When was the last time you did something that scared you, but aligned with who you want to become? When was the last time you chose growth over ease without knowing how it would turn out? Callings are revealed through movement, not contemplation. The moment you step out of comfort, clarity follows. Comfort will keep you safe, but it will never make you significant. Your calling is not found in what feels good. It is found in what demands courage. And the sooner you stop negotiating with comfort, the sooner you step into the life that was always waiting for you on the other side of it. Your weak self does not attack you openly. It doesn't shout. It doesn't threaten. It doesn't tell you to ruin your life. It lies quietly, patiently, and convincingly. That is what makes it so dangerous. If the weak version of you were obvious, you would fight it. But instead, it speaks in a voice that sounds like your own. It feels logical. It feels reasonable. And because of that, you trust it, even when it is leading you away from everything you say you want. The weak self is a master of delay. Its favorite word is later. Later when you have more time. Later when you feel motivated. Later when things settle down. It tells you there is no urgency, no deadline, no real consequence for waiting. But later is a lie because time does not pause while you prepare. Opportunities age, energy fades, responsibilities increase. The weak self knows this, yet it convinces you that waiting is wisdom. In reality, waiting without action is fear wearing a calm mask. Another lie your weak self tells you is that you need to feel ready before you act. It convinces you that confidence comes first and action comes second. But confidence has never worked that way. Confidence is built by doing things before you feel ready and surviving them. Your weak self reverses the order to keep you safe from discomfort. It says, once you feel better, then you'll start. But feeling better is the reward of action, not the requirement for it. So you stay stuck, waiting for a feeling that never arrives. Your weak self also lies about your past. It reminds you of failures, but edits out growth. It replays mistakes without acknowledging lessons learned. It uses what went wrong as evidence that you should not try again. But failure is not proof of incapability. It is proof of participation. The weak self reframes every stumble as a permanent flaw instead of a temporary step. Over time, this lie erodes your self-trust. You stop believing in your ability to adapt, recover, and improve. One of the most convincing lies is the lie of comparison. Your weak self tells you that others are ahead because they are more gifted, more connected, more fortunate. It hides the truth that consistency beats talent when talent refuses to work. It convinces you that starting now would be embarrassing because you are behind. But being behind is not a sentence. It is a starting point. The only real disadvantage is refusing to begin because of where you think you should already be. The weak self also lies by exaggerating the cost of discipline. It makes effort feel unbearable and sacrifice feel unfair. It tells you that working harder will steal your joy. That saying no will make life dull. That structure will make you feel trapped. But discipline does not remove freedom, it creates it. The lie is that ease leads to happiness, when in reality, ease without purpose leads to emptiness. The weak self wants you comfortable, not fulfilled. Perhaps the most damaging lie is the belief that this is just who you are. Your weak self tells you that change is unnatural, that consistency is not your personality, that discipline is for other people. This lie turns habits into identities. It convinces you to stop trying, because trying would challenge the story you have told yourself for years. But identities are not discovered, they are constructed. Every action you repeat votes for the person you are becoming. You are not fixed, you are trained. Your weak self lies about consequences too. It tells you that skipping today doesn't matter, that one more excuse won't hurt, that small compromises are harmless. But lives are not destroyed in a single moment. They erode slowly. In the same way, lives are not transformed by one decision, but by thousands of small, faithful choices. The weak self survives in a space where consequences feel distant. Strength is built when you act as if today matters, because it does. The truth is, your weak self is not evil. It is protective. It is trying to keep you safe from pain, rejection, failure, and uncertainty. But safety and growth are not the same thing. The weak self prioritizes survival. The strong self prioritizes becoming. One uses it as a tool. The lies exist because your mind wants to protect you, not because you are incapable of greatness. Once you see the lies for what they are, they lose power. You stop arguing with them and start acting despite them. You stop waiting for permission and start taking responsibility. The weak self cannot survive honesty in action. The moment you move before you feel ready, before conditions are perfect, before confidence shows up, you expose the lie. And with every truthful action you take, the weak voice grows quieter until one day you realize it no longer controls you. Discipline is not glamorous. It doesn't feel good in the moment, and it doesn't announce itself with excitement. But discipline is the most powerful weapon you will ever have against weakness because it works when motivation disappears. Motivation is emotional. Discipline is structural. Motivation depends on how you feel. Discipline depends on who you decide to be. And weakness survives in the gaps where feelings are allowed to make decisions. Discipline closes those gaps. Weakness is not usually about lack of desire. Most people want better lives, stronger minds, and meaningful success. The problem is that wanting is passive. Discipline is active. Weakness waits for the right mood. Discipline acts in the wrong one. Every time you do what needs to be done despite resistance, you weaken the hold that your weaker self has over you. You teach your mind that comfort is not in charge anymore. Discipline begins with small, unremarkable actions repeated consistently. It is waking up when you don't feel like it. It is showing up when nobody is watching. It is doing the work without applause. Weakness thrives on inconsistency. It convinces you that skipping today is harmless, that you can make up for it later. Discipline destroys that lie by making today non-negotiable. It turns effort into routine, and routine into identity. One of the greatest misunderstandings about discipline is that it limits freedom. In reality, weakness limits freedom. When you lack discipline, your emotions control you. Your cravings decide for you. Your distractions lead you. Discipline removes those chains. It gives you control over your time, your energy, and your direction. A disciplined person is not trapped. They are liberated. They are free from the constant guilt of knowing what they should do, but not doing it. Discipline also trains your mind to tolerate discomfort without panic. Weakness reacts to discomfort as if it is danger. Discipline understands discomfort as a signal of growth. The first few days of discipline feel heavy because your mind is not used to resistance. But just like muscles strengthen under tension, your character grows stronger when you refuse to escape discomfort. Over time, what once felt painful becomes normal, and what once felt impossible becomes expected. Another way discipline kills weakness is by eliminating negotiation. Weakness negotiates, it debates, it rationalizes, it asks, do I really have to do this today? Discipline does not argue, it executes. The moment you remove decision-making from certain actions, you remove weakness's voice. When waking up early, training, studying, praying, or working becomes automatic, the weak self loses its leverage. It cannot talk you out of something that is already decided. Discipline also builds self-trust, which is something weakness destroys. Every broken promise to yourself weakens your confidence. Every kept promise strengthens it. When you say you will do something and follow through, Especially when it's hard, you send a message to your mind that you are reliable. That trust compounds. You begin to believe in your own word. And a person who trusts themselves is dangerous to weakness. There will be days when discipline feels pointless. Days when progress is invisible. Days when results lag behind effort. Weakness uses these moments to whisper that it's not working. Discipline ignores the whisper and continues anyway. It understands that progress is often delayed, not denied. Seeds grow underground before they ever break the surface. The disciplined stay consistent long enough to see what the undisciplined abandon too early. Discipline does not require perfection. It requires persistence. Weakness loves all or nothing thinking. It tells you that if you miss once, you might as well quit. Discipline corrects quickly and continues. It understands that setbacks are part of the process, not the end of it. The power of discipline is not in never falling. It is in refusing to stay down. Eventually, discipline changes how you see yourself. You stop identifying as someone who trays and start seeing yourself as someone who does. This identity shift is the death of weakness. Weakness cannot survive in someone who acts regardless of mood. When discipline becomes who you are, not just what you do, the weak version of you loses its control. Discipline will never feel easy, but it will always be worth it. It is the quiet force that reshapes your life from the inside out. And when you wield it daily, weakness has nowhere left to hide. The life you say you want cannot be built by the person you have been. That is not an insult. It is a reality of growth. Every new level demands a new version of you. If the old version of you was enough, you would already be living the life you keep imagining. But imagination without transformation only creates frustration. To move forward, something in you has to change. And usually it is not the world, it is you. Becoming someone you've never been is uncomfortable because it requires you to release what feels familiar. Familiar habits feel safe, even when they are limiting. Familiar thinking feels right even when it is wrong. You may want new results while clinging to old routines, but life does not work that way. You cannot negotiate with growth. The patterns that got you here will not take you there. Something must be upgraded, replaced, or let go. This transformation begins internally. Before your circumstances change, your standards must change. The way you talk to yourself, the way you manage your time, the way you respond to pressure, these things shape who you are becoming. Many people wait for motivation or inspiration to strike before they act differently. But becoming someone new is not about feeling different first. It is about behaving differently long enough for your identity to catch up. The hardest part is accepting that the old version of you cannot come with you. Old excuses, old fears, old comfort zones, and old self-images must be left behind. You may still recognize them, but you cannot obey them. Growth is a separation process. You separate from who you were in order to step into who you must be. This is why transformation often feels lonely. You are no longer aligned with your past, but not yet fully comfortable in your future. Becoming someone you've never been also requires new responsibilities. The stronger version of you does not live recklessly with time or energy. They protect their focus. They make decisions with intention. They understand that every choice is shaping tomorrow. This level of responsibility can feel heavy at first because you can no longer blame circumstances, people, or luck. Ownership replaces excuses. And ownership is the doorway to power. You will be tested during this transition. Life will challenge you to see if you are serious about becoming different. Old habits will try to pull you back. Old environments will remind you of who you used to be. Old versions of yourself will whisper that this change is unnecessary or unrealistic. These tests are not punishments, they are confirmations. They exist to solidify your new identity. Every time you respond differently than you used to, you reinforce who you are becoming. One of the biggest shifts required is learning to delay gratification. The version of you that builds a greater life is willing to sacrifice short-term comfort for long-term fulfillment. They do not chase every impulse. They do not need instant rewards. They are patient with progress. This patience is not passive, it is disciplined. It is the quiet confidence that today's effort is building tomorrow's freedom. Becoming someone new also means adopting new beliefs. You must believe that change is possible even when evidence is limited. You must believe that consistency will pay off even when results are slow. You must believe that your future is not defined by your past. These beliefs are not fantasies, they are commitments. They guide your actions when emotions fluctuate and circumstances resist. You will not recognize yourself at first. The discipline will feel unnatural. The courage will feel forced. The confidence will feel borrowed. That is normal. Growth always feels awkward before it feels authentic. You are practicing a new identity, just like you once practiced the habits that kept you stuck. Over time, repetition turns effort into instinct. What once felt like struggle becomes your standard. Becoming someone you've never been is not about becoming perfect. It is about becoming intentional. It is choosing alignment over comfort, purpose over ease, and progress over familiarity. And when you finally look back, you will realize that the hardest part was not becoming someone new. It was letting go of the version of you that was never meant to stay. That is the price of transformation, and it is always worth paying. Let this be the moment you stop negotiating with the version of yourself that keeps holding you back. You already know what you need to do. You don't need more information, more motivation, or more time. You need a decision. The weak self has had enough chances. It has spoken long enough. It has cost you days, months, and years you can never get back. And if you don't confront it now, it will gladly steal more. Understand this clearly. Nothing outside of you is going to change first. The world will not get easier. The timing will not become perfect. Fear will not disappear. But strength is not built in perfect conditions. It is built in resistance. The moment you choose discipline over comfort, action over excuses, and growth over familiarity, you take your life back. Not someday, today. This is not about becoming someone else. It is about becoming who you were always meant to be before fear, comfort, and habits talked you out of it. The strong version of you is already there, waiting for permission to take control. And that permission only comes when you decide that staying the same is more painful than changing. So let today be the line you draw. Let it be the day you stop feeding weakness and start starving it. Do the hard thing. Keep the promise. Show up when it's uncomfortable, because every disciplined choice you make from this moment forward is a message to your future saying, I didn't quit on you. Kill the weak self, not with anger, but with consistency. Not with words, but with action. And when you do, you won't just change your life. You'll finally earn it.